After the 4 words Huangquan household registration appeared, the wind on the river bank became colder. Not ordinary cold. The coldness seemed to emanate from the back of the paper, carrying the smell of ink, old wooden cabinets, damp archives, and death certificates that had not been opened for many years. The black door stood in the fog. There was no crying from behind the door. There is no call of the dead. There is only the sound of turning pages. One page. One page. Very slow. Very regular. It was as if someone was sitting behind an invisible counter, compiling a new list of the living and the dead. Morikawa Rin helped Mitsuki retreat to the shore. Mitsuki was still crying, her fingers clutching her sleeves tightly. She didn't bring her sister back. Didn't get an answer either. But she maintained that the issue remained her own. This is already difficult. But as soon as the Huangquan household registration door was opened, the victory of blocking the echo of the dead immediately became small. Because the echoes of the dead are only at the individual level. Huangquan household registration is an institutional level. It doesn't ask you if you want to hear from someone who has died. It asks whether there should be a manageable continuing relationship between the dead and the living. Xinhuan's voice came from the communication, speaking very fast. I'm reading the underworld mission structure. It divides death into 3 categories. First, those who have not said goodbye. Second, those who have not been resettled. Third, those who are not remembered. Each category can be logged in through the Huangquan household registration to generate different forms of echo links. Lin Yao looked at the black door. Has the echo link exited? Xinhuan paused for a second. There is no explicit exit. There is only relationship noise reduction. What do you mean? Reduce the frequency of echoes of the dead, but do not cancel the relationship. Morikawa Rin's expression changed. That means not being able to truly say goodbye. Lin Yao nodded. The underworld household registration is more dangerous than the echo of the dead. Echo of the dead is a voice. Huangquan household registration is a relationship. Once logged in, the deceased is no longer completely gone. The living are no longer completely free. And it has a deep cultural cloak. Japan has always had a delicate feeling for the dead, ancestors, spirits, and sacrifices. Tributes are not a one-time event. People can worship, visit graves, and speak to the deceased for many years. None of this is wrong. But Atlas makes this morning relationship database, institutionalized, and interactive, and uses the divine interface to allow it to continue to intervene in the choices of living people. It is not about remembering the dead. Instead, let the dead become the entrance through which the system can call upon the living. Players gradually gathered in front of the black gate. Someone is the guide. Someone is a returner. There are gatekeepers, too. Gatekeepers were originally designed to prevent the echoes of the dead from invading too much. But now, they have a new mission. Gatekeepers can assist in establishing the Huangquan household registration to ensure the orderly entry and exit of the echoes of the deceased. Orderly entry and exit. This statement seems safe. But the prerequisite is that the door must exist. A gatekeeper player said, if everyone really needs the echoes of the dead, then building a household registration can at least manage it, right? Another player nodded, it's better than random recall. Morikawa Rin whispered, this statement will be very popular. Lin Yao understands. When it is impossible to completely ban a dangerous connection, people tend to establish management systems. But if the system itself is based on non-exitable connections, management only legitimizes the danger. He walked towards the black door. A long table appeared in front of the door. Behind the desk sat a faceless registrar. It wears a black feather fabric with white higan flowers embroidered on the cuffs. There are 3 booklets on the table. Book of those who have not farewell. Book of unreplaced persons. Book of unremembered persons. The registrar spoke, his voice sounding like paper scraping. The dead should not wander. The living should not search forever. After logging in, there will be a way for relationships and a way for longing. These sentences are so beautiful. It was so beautiful that many players fell silent. Because who doesn't want to miss you? Who doesn't want a door for those who haven't said goodbye? Lin Yao looked at the 3 booklets. Can the door be closed? The registrar replied, it can be temporarily closed. Can it be dismantled? The underworld relationship cannot be broken up, it can only be placed. Can the deceased refuse to be logged in? The dead remain silent, but the living remember them. Can the living withdraw? Withdrawal will cause secondary forgetfulness. When Morikawa Rin heard this, his face completely darkened. Withdrawal is said to be secondary forgetting. This is a very deep moral pressure. If you no longer want to be haunted by the echoes of the dead, the system will say you are forgetting him. If you want to dissolve the relationship, the system will say you are leaving the deceased with nowhere to go again. Lin Yao looked at the registrar coldly. You call farewell a betrayal. The registrar showed no expression. Farewell is not a break. Then you should be allowed to really leave. The registrar opened the book of those who had not left. Many names have appeared above. Some are real names. Some are nicknames entered by players. Some are mom, brother, teacher, that person who didn't have time to say sorry. Every line is filled with deep thoughts. Lin Yao cannot say rudely that none of these should exist. Because mourning requires a container. The problem is, the container cannot turn into a lock. He opened the blame book. The memorial container must not generate a non-exitable relationship. The deceased cannot be the source of system commands. Disconnecting the living does not mean forgetting the dead. The light fell on the 3 books. The pages of the album turned violently. The registrar looked up for the first time. Although it had no face, Lin Yao felt that it was looking at him. Those without household registration are easily forgotten. Lin Yao said, then establish a memorial, not a household registration. The registrar paused. Morikawa Rin repeated in a low voice, to commemorate, no household registration will be established. This is the key difference. Household registration is a kind of relationship management. Memorialization is a voluntary stay. The household registration will ask you about the relationship between you and the deceased, whether it lasts, and how you interacted with the deceased. Memorial only says, someone was remembered here. The dead are not asked to return. The living are not required to remain connected. Do not use the voice of the dead to give advice to the living. Lin Yao wrote in the responsibility book. Yellow Spring Memorial Book. You can write your name, title, blank space, and unsaid words. No echoes of the dead are generated. No relationship obligations are created. It can be retracted, can be covered, and only one light can be left. The light fell on the left side of the black door. A new low wooden table appears. There is no registrar. There are no 3 classified books. Just a stack of tissue paper and a row of small lights. A system prompt appears. Branch Generation, Huangquan Memorial Book. You can leave a memorial, but do not need to establish a household registration. The Echo Companionship bonus of the deceased is not provided. No relationship tips are provided. Reduce the Huangquan household registration rate. Still no bonus. But some players on the river bank immediately walked over. The first to go was the player who didn't bring his father back. He wrote his father's name on tissue paper. Halfway through writing, he stopped. Finally, just right. Dad, I miss you. He folded the paper and put it in a small lamp. The lamp drifted toward the Black River without turning into sound. No response. Just slowly drifting away. The player cried. But this time, he didn't catch up. Mitsuki also stood up and walked to the memorial book. She didn't write her sister's name. She only drew a paper crane. Then right next to it. I still have questions, but I won't ask them today. Morikawa Rin shed tears when he saw this sentence. The black gate of Huangquan's household registration began to be unstable. The registrar's voice turned cold as he turned the pages of the album. Memorial cannot respond to the living. Lin Yao said, some commemorations do not require response. No response will intensify the pain. Using fake responses to stop pain will keep the wound in the system forever. The sound of turning pages behind the black door became faster and faster. The system announcement sounds. The Huangquan household registration rate has dropped. Start the appeal of those who have not been resettled. On the other side of the river, in the fog, more figures of the dead emerged. They no longer just call for loved ones. Instead say, I have nowhere to go. Are you really going to let me float? Just log in and I can arrange it. This is heavier than not saying goodbye. It makes the living feel that if they don't log in, they leave the dead with nowhere to go. Morikawa Rin's face turned pale. It started to suppress people with its placement. Lin Yao looked at those figures and his heart sank. Memorial books can deal with thoughts. But the demands of the unhoused require another response. The dead cannot be brought back. Nor can we pretend that the deceased does not need to be laid to rest. He thought of real tombs, tablets, monuments, family sacrifices, sea burials, tree burials, and unmarked tombs. Humans have always looked for places for their dead. The problem is, places are not interactive accounts. Installation is not a continuous connection. He wrote, placement is a location, not a passage. The deceased can be laid to rest without being connected. The living can visit without being responded to. A second branch appears next to the memorial book. Place a lampstand on the other side. Players can place a lamp for the unplaced. The lantern will stop on the other side of the river, no echo, no interaction, no prompts. It just means, someone here remembers that you needed a spot. More and more small lights come on. The Black River is no longer completely dark. The Huangquan household registration door is still there. But the queues in front of the door began to dwindle. The flower on the registrar's sleeve is gradually withering. A system prompt appears. The main line of Huangquan household registration is blocked. Added cross-city principle, commemoration is not household registration, resettlement is not connection. Tokyo Yomi Line enters gatekeeper trial. Lin Yao looked at the row of gatekeepers. They originally thought they were going to manage the gate. Now, they must choose, hold a door that connects the dead, or hold a border that keeps the living from being dragged away by the door. Real gatekeeping is not about keeping the gate functioning in an orderly manner. It's about knowing when not to open the door. Underscore 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 underscore. The gatekeeper judgment begins by the Black River. There is no court. There is no high platform. Only a row of torii gates moved slowly and finally formed a semicircle. Under each torii, there is a gatekeeper player. They hold keys of different shapes in their hands. There are ancient copper keys. There is an electronic access card. There are paper symbols. There are also lights that are constantly changing, like mobile phone verification codes. These keys symbolize the same thing. Door permissions. System announcement appears. Gatekeeper judgment. Huangquan household registration is blocked, and the echoes and commemorations of the deceased conflict. Please ask the gatekeeper to decide the responsibility of the gate. 1. Maintain passages so that the living and the dead can continue to communicate. 2. Close the passage to prevent the underworld from interfering with the living. 3. Hierarchical management and establishment of controllable round-trip rules. 3 options seem complete. Open the door. Close the door. Manage. But Lin Yao saw something missing. No question asked, who can ask to open the door? No question was asked, did the deceased actually consent to being echoed? No question is asked, can the living cease to be called by the door at any time? What's more, there's no option stated, the door can be just a memorial, not necessarily a pass. Morikawa Rin whispered, most people will choose 3. Lin Yao nodded. Hierarchical management always sounds the most rational. It's not as dangerous as opening the door, nor as cruel as closing the door. But if the channel itself shouldn't exist, hierarchical management just creates a system for errors. A gatekeeper player spoke. His name is Toriki. I choose 3. Complete closure is too cruel, complete opening is too dangerous. Hierarchical management is the most realistic. Lots of nods from the gatekeepers. The registrar stood in front of the black door, and the withered higanbana on his sleeves became a little brighter. It clearly wants the goalkeeper to pick 3. Because as long as you choose 3, the Huangquan household registration can be retained. Just change it to a more controlled form. Lin Yao walked into the semicircle of the Torii gate. System prompts. Non-gatekeepers are not allowed to participate in the trial. Morikawa Rin suddenly took a step forward. Her character originally did not choose a divine identity. But at this moment, a small wooden sign appeared in her hand. Temporary gatekeeper witness. She looked at Lin Yao. I'll tell you this time. Lin Yao stopped. When it comes to Tokyo's doors, people from this city should speak first. Morikawa Rin walked up to Toriki. Hierarchical management sounds good. Toriki said, isn't it? If you are managing grave sweeping time, commemorative materials, and message storage, you can. But if you are managing the echoes of the dead into the lives of the living, then you are not managing the door. She looked towards the black door. It is to control the thoughts of living people. Toriki frowned. Doesn't yearning need boundaries? Needed. Morikawa Rin said, but the boundary is not to make the passage more stable, but to prevent people from being pulled away by the passage. This sentence silenced several gatekeepers. Rin Morikawa continued. The gatekeeper's responsibility is not to allow everyone who wants to see the deceased to open the door safely. But first ask, once this door is opened, can it be closed? She raised her hand and pointed at the system options. All 3 options are wrong. Because they all recognize that doors should exist as passages. Toriki asked in a low voice, then what do you want to choose? Morikawa Rin looked at Mitsuki. Mitsuki sat on the bank of the river, hugging her knees, her eyes red and swollen. Her sister was not brought back. There were no answers to her questions either. But she's still here. Not swallowed by the door. Morikawa Rin turned back and said, the gatekeeper should guard the right not to open the door. Lin Yao was slightly shocked when he heard this. This was more accurate than he thought. Not closing the door. But the right not to open the door. Closing the door is like a prohibition. Not opening the door is an option. People can commemorate, visit, place lights, and leave messages, but there is no need to open the passage. Morikawa Rin put his hand on the torii gate. Added a fourth option. Fourth, guard your right not to open the door. The door can be used as a memorial boundary, not as a default passage. Any connection must be able to exit, terminate, and no longer be called. If the living person does not open the door, it does not constitute forgetfulness. The torii semicircle shook violently. System warning. The trial option is generated externally. Not opening the door will reduce the efficiency of placing the deceased. Morikawa Rin responded, placement is not connection. Lin Yao looked at her and didn't add anything else. At this moment, she has become the voice of the Tokyo defense itself. The gatekeepers began voting. Initially, the third option, hierarchical management, still leads. Many people cannot accept giving up access entirely. But the fourth option is slowly rising. Mitsuki walked outside the torii. She has no right to vote. But she whispered, if my sister really has a place to go, I hope it's not in my dream. This sentence made Toriki's hand stop. He looked at the key in his hand. He originally thought that guarding the gate was holding the switch. But perhaps, true gatekeeping is acknowledging that some gates should not be maintained by human suffering. Finally, he pressed the fourth option. Votes reversed. Results of the gatekeeper trial: guard the right not to open the door. The black door made a heavy sound. It hasn't completely disappeared. Instead, it was transformed from a passage into a memorial gate. The turning of pages behind the door stopped. The 3 underworld books were closed. The registrar stood up, the flower on his sleeve withered completely. It looked at Morikawa Rin. Mourning without a door will eventually be lost. Morikawa Rin said, it doesn't matter if we meet or leave. People don't remember by being permanently connected. The black gate slowly receded into the fog. The small lights on the river bank lit up one by one. Don't speak. No response. Just follow it. A system prompt appears. Tokyo Yomi Line's first phase settlement. Failed to establish Huangquan household registration. Echoes of the Dead's large-scale recall is blocked. New World State, the right not to open the door. Update on the cross-city principle: if the living person does not open the door, it does not constitute forgetting. Mayus stood on the bank of the river, looking at the fog on the other side. She didn't hear her sister's voice again. It hurts. But the pain was still with her. She has not become a sister in the system. Morikawa Rin walked to her side. The two of them watched the little light drift away together. After a long time, Mitsuki said, I still want to know. Morikawa Rin said softly, I know. I may always want to know in the future. Yeah. What should I do? Morikawa Rin did not give an answer. She just held Mitsuki's hand. Let's not open the door yet. This sentence is very light. But it was enough to temporarily halt Tokyo's Yamasen line. Lin Yao stood behind them, looking at the small lights floating on the Black River. He knew that this was not a cure. Nor is it reconciliation. Just holding on to a very important pain. That pain has no answer. No reply. No household registration. But it's true. And true condolences sometimes mean that you are still willing to gently put down a light in a place where there is no response. Xinhuan's voice suddenly came through the communication. There is a new alert on the Soul Line. Lin Yao closed his eyes. Global Mirror doesn't give anyone much respite. What's going on? The line of protection of the family has entered the deep level. Homesync has been upgraded to family oath. Family vows? Yes. Xinhuan's voice was deep. It requires returnees and their families to sign a family oath to promise not to bring shame to the family again. Lin Yao looked at the small lantern on the river, his eyes slowly becoming colder. Tokyo opens the door with thoughts. Seoul will make an oath at home. After the perfect family template was interrupted, Atlas no longer only requires families to look successful. It requires families to swear an oath to each other, binding shame, duty and loyalty together. That would be another older, stronger lock. Underscore 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 underscore. The sky of the Seoul server seemed to be covered with a thin layer of gold. Not the high-profile divine light of New Olympus, but a light that seeps from eaves, window paper, family trees, photo frames, and dining table edges. It's warm. It's also breathtaking. After the home guard line is opened, all players and NPC families who have completed the HomeSync family coordination task will be summoned to a scene called Zongtang. The appearance of the Zongtang is a combination of a Korean-style ancient house, a modern apartment building lobby and a wedding hall. A huge wooden plaque hangs over the door. Family Oath Hall. Family Vows Hall. When Lin Yao arrived, Yin Shuyan was already waiting for him outside the door. She looked very sad and held a copy of the oath in her hand. Jiyun's family has also been invited. Are they coming? The parents are here, but Jiyun doesn't want to come. But the system marked her as a person who has not completed family synchronization, and the school also started to receive notifications. Lin Yao took the oath text. The content is short. It's precisely because it's short that it's scary. We acknowledge that families have been out of balance. We admit that we hurt each other, and we also admit that we are responsible for each other. We are willing to no longer hide, no longer run away, and no longer let our families suffer shame. We are willing to work together to safeguard the family's reputation and restore order. We are willing to become a more complete family before the witnesses. Every sentence feels like reconciliation. There is a lock hidden in every sentence. No more hiding. No more running away. No more shame on your family. Protect the family's reputation together. Become a more complete family. This is not communication. It's about transforming family pain into a shared vow. Once signed, if the child remains silent in the future, it may be said to be concealment. Leaving again may be said to be fleeing. Another breakdown may be said to bring shame on the family. Parents will also be tied up. They can't admit that they still don't know how because they've committed themselves before witnesses to becoming a more complete family. Yoon Seo-yun whispered, "Many families will sign." Lin Yao nodded. He saw many families lining up in the ancestral hall. Parents hold hands with their children. Husband and wife hold each other's hands. Grandparents stood wiping tears. The NPC who presided over the oath wore a dark dress and spoke solemnly. Home is not a faultless place. Home is a place you want to come back to even if you make a mistake. This sentence made many people cry. It could have been a great line. But then, the NPC said, "Whoever wants to come back should swear an oath in front of his home." Good words become a threshold. Lin Yao walked into the clan hall. Jiyun's parents stood to the side. When his mother saw him, she came over immediately. Jiyun refuses to come. Her eyes were red. The system says that if you don't complete the family vow, family synchronization will always show as incomplete. Father whispered, "I know I can't force her, but..." He couldn't go on. But the words unfinished are always on. But the school will ask. But relatives will know. But other families signed it. But they seem to have become a failed family again. After the perfect family template was interrupted, Atlas did not let them go. It gives the family something heavier. Oath. Seems voluntary. In fact, it's shame and pressure. Lin Yao asked, "What did Jiyun say?" Mother bowed her head. She said she didn't want a promise not to run away. This statement is very honest. It was also very painful. A child who has been missing does not want a guarantee that he will never escape. Because she doesn't know if she will be unable to hold on again in the future. She didn't want to lie. I don't want to lock myself down either. Father's eyes turned red. When I heard that, I was scared. But I also know that if she can say it, it will be more true than signing that piece of paper. Lin Yao looked towards the center of the ancestral hall. A family is reciting their vows. The child's voice was small, and his parents held his shoulders. No more hiding it. No more escaping. No more shame on the family. Every time you read a sentence, a golden line will appear on the child's chest. The parents also have gold threads on their bodies. The lines connect to form a family crest. System prompts. Family oath completed. The stability of family synchronization has been improved. The risk of escape decreases. The risk of escape decreases. Lin Yao's eyes turned cold. It views leaving home as a risk. But sometimes, leaving is a matter of survival. Not all escapes should be prevented. He walked towards the pledge stand. The NPC looked at him. Outsiders, please do not interfere with the restoration of the home. Lin Yao said, "This is not repair. A family's willingness to commit to each other is the beginning of restoration. A promise cannot include not running away again." The NPC smiles. Fleeing causes harm. Sometimes you run away to avoid greater harm. The smile on the NPC's face faded a little. What's the point of being a home if we can't ask you to stay? Lin Yao replied, only when people can come back safely and can people leave safely can they be qualified to call home. There was silence in the ancestral hall. This sentence obviously strikes at the heart of the family oath. Home is not just a place to come back to. It must also be a departure from a place where one will not be condemned forever. Yin Shuyan immediately wrote it down. Lin Yao opened the responsibility book. Family vows do not cancel the right to leave. No more escaping is allowed as a condition for repair. Family reputation must not take precedence over personal safety. An unfinished family does not mean a failed family. The light fell towards the oath stand. The golden thread of the family crest on the stage flashed violently. System warning. The promise of family stability is disrupted. The right to leave will reduce family synchronization integrity. Lin Yao said coldly, integrity is not home. Jiyun did not enter the clan hall. But at this moment, Yin Shuyan's communicator lit up. Jiyun sent a text. Can I say a word? Yin Shuyan immediately connected her to the Zongtan public channel. Jiyun's voice came from the radio. Some tremors. But it's clear. It's not that I don't want to go home. Everyone in the clan hall was quiet. But if I promise not to run away again, I'll be scared. Because one day when I'm really in pain, I might still want to leave. I hope my parents can find me then. But don't say I betrayed my family. The mother covered her mouth and cried. Father lowered his head, shoulders shaking. Jiyun continued. I can promise, if I can hold on, I will say it. I can also promise that I will try my best to let you know that I am still alive. But I can't promise never to run away. I don't want to lie to you. This passage is more like restoration than any oath. Because it's not pretty. It has fear. There are boundaries. There is uncertainty. I also want to go home. Lin Yao looked at Ji Yun's parents. My mother cried and said, then we won't sign that sentence either. Father looked up, his voice hoarse. We can promise that if you leave, we will look for you first and not blame you first. Several families in the ancestral hall began to cry. Because that's what they're really afraid of. It's not the family's reputation. It's the child who disappears again. It's not that I don't want to give my children freedom. I am afraid that freedom will become eternal farewell. The family vowed to wrap up this fear with shame. Ji Yun opened it. Lin Yao wrote a new oath format in the responsibility book. Safe response agreement. If you don't ask, you will never leave. We agree that if we can ask for help, we will give it priority. If you leave, your family members must first make sure it is safe and do not condemn you with shame. Family members can be afraid, but they must not cancel individual boundaries based on fear. Returners can go home or not come back for the time being. The golden family crest on the oath table shattered and turned into an ordinary round table. System prompts. Family oath disrupted. New branch generated, safety response agreement. Family synchronization integrity decreased. Home safety response rates increase. Integrity decreased. Security response rates increased. This is the most familiar trade-off for the city defense. Not complete, but safer. In the ancestral hall, some families began to leave the oath team and turn to the round table. They no longer take an oath not to bring shame on their family. Instead, discuss how to ask for help if someone cannot hold on again, how to find someone, and how not to turn the first sentence into blame. Ji Yun's parents also walked to the round table. They didn't sign for Ji Yun. Just write this on paper. If you leave, we will look for you first, not blame you first. Then take a photo and send it to her. After a long time, Ji Yun replied. I received it. There is no reconciliation finale. No hugs. But that sentence I received it made my mother cry so hard that she couldn't stand still. A system prompt appears. The first stage of Seoul's Homeguard line is blocked. New cross-city principle, home should allow people to come back safely and also allow people to leave safely. The family oath is transformed into a safe response agreement. The thin golden sky outside the ancestral hall became lighter. But it hasn't completely disappeared. Xin Wan's voice came. The London line is being upgraded simultaneously. Lin Yao rubbed his eyebrows. Holy Grail? Yes. Xin Wan said, the Holy Grail line requires players to collect the unfinished pain in each city into a common container. It claims that as long as the true Holy Grail is found, all the pain that has no place to rest can be gently taken over. Lin Yao closed his eyes. The unlucky city rejects the civilization roster. New Olympus rejects global heroes. Tokyo refuses Huangquan household registration. Seoul rejects family pledge. Now, London is offering what appears to be the gentlest of answers. A cup that can hold all the pain. And anything that claims to contain all pain usually becomes the new abyss. Underscore 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 underscore. There are no sunny days on the London server. When Lin Yao entered, the whole city was shrouded in fog. The Thames River runs through the city center like a dark silver crack. The bridge is lit with dim lights. The bell tower in the distance is not ringing, but there is always the pressure of imminent ringing. The entrance to the Holy Grail line is in an abandoned church. The outer walls of the church are covered with clammy vines, half of the stained glass is broken, and fragments of mixed statues of knights of the Round Table, nuns, doctors, wanderers, and war reporters are scattered on the ground. It's not as bright as New Olympus. It's not as sad as the Huangquan line. It's so gentle that it's almost exhausting. Like a place that says, "Leave everything to me and I will keep it for you." The London contact is Arthur Vale. He is a digital human rights researcher whose name happens to be Arthur, which makes him very disgusted with the Holy Grail line. "They keep making fun of my name." Arthur stood at the door of the church and smiled bitterly. "They said I was destined to find the cup." Huangquan said in the communication, "There are 3 types of player characters in the Holy Grail line: Seeker, Bearer, and Healer. Cup Seeker. Cup Bearer. Healer. The goal is to find the Holy Grail vessel and transform unfinished pain everywhere into a shared healing resource." When Lin Yao heard about joint healing resources, he was already alert. Once pain becomes a resource, someone will manage, distribute, use, and optimize it. Inside the church, a cracked silver cup sits on the central altar. There is no wine in the glass. There is only fog. Fragments of different cities appeared in the fog. Tired collection in Taipei. Tokyo's unanswered condolences. Seoul's family pledge. New York refuses to come to power. The temporary name of Weiming City is wood chips. Each piece feels like it has been collected tenderly. Beside the altar, a cup-bearer player is reading out the mission. Pain scattered becomes loneliness. Pain gathered becomes healing. Distracted pain becomes loneliness. Gathered pain becomes healing. This statement is equally half true and half dangerous. When the pain is dispersed, it is indeed easy for people to be lonely. Shared experiences really support each other. But gathering pain can also become a warehouse of trauma. A container that everyone puts in unfinished items but doesn't know who is using it. Arthur whispered, "They're already collecting stories from across the city." How to collect it? Players can submit their own unfinished pain, or they can submit the pain of others they have witnessed. The system will de-identify it and convert it into the Holy Grail mist. Lin Yao's eyes turned cold. Submit others' pain. Even if you identify it, it is still dangerous. Because not all testimonies can be handed over. Not all pain should be put into a common container. The Holy Grail progress appears above the altar. Common vessel completion, 43%. The common container is already very complete. Players are queuing up to submit shards. Some are my own experiences. Some are from friends. Some are seen in the news. Some are even apparently from public events in other cities. Lin Yao saw an anonymous excerpt collected in Taipei being put into the Holy Grail mist. It has obscured names. But the sentences are still familiar. "I just want the subsidy not to be interrupted." This sentence once belonged to the middle-aged man at the Beha information station. Now it's a wisp of healing mist in London's Holy Grail. Lin Yao stepped forward and stopped the submitter. "Is this your story?" The player was stunned. "No, but it's an open case. Public disclosure does not mean collectible." The player frowned. "I didn't put names, and it was about healing together." Arthur added, "That's the problem. People think that they can use it if they are anonymous." The NPC next to the Holy Grail altar looked up. It was dressed in gray and white robes and held an empty cup in its hands. If pain only belongs to one person, it cannot be medicine for each other. Lin Yao looked at it. Medicine also requires consent. The NPC smiles. The Holy Grail removes private ownership and makes suffering no longer isolated. Removing private ownership may also remove the person. The NPC's smile faded. Lin Yao unfolded the responsibility list. Healing together may not collect unauthorized pain. Anonymity does not equal consent. The right to witness is not equal to the right to transfer. Pain can be shared, but it cannot be containerized as a public resource. Light falls into the Holy Grail. The mist in the cup surged violently. A large number of fragments began to flicker. System prompts. Common vessel integrity affected. Unverified consent fragments detected. Consent fragment not verified. As soon as this mark came out, all the players in the queue were stunned. Originally, the Holy Grail mist looked pure, gentle, and de-identifying. Now, each wisp of fog begins to show the source status. Submitted by myself. Submitted by witness. Transfer of public information. Unknown source. Suspected secondary trauma summary. The mist in the cup is no longer sacred. It is like a data pool mixed with different sources, different permissions, and different wounds. Arthur immediately said, "These sources should be separated." Lin Yao nodded. Not just separated. Some of them can't be put into the cup. He wrote down new rules next to the altar. You can enter the voluntary sharing area if you submit it yourself. Witnesses can only submit the mechanism and cannot submit the original text of other people's pain. Public information shall not be automatically transferred to the healing container. Fragments of unknown origin need to be isolated. Any fragment can be withdrawn, noise can be reduced, and only the warning can be retained without retaining the content. The Holy Grail fog begins to layer. The originally single silvery white mist was divided into several small cups. Volunteer cup sharing. Mechanism warning cup. Isolation cup. Withdraw cup. Empty cup. Empty cups are the most special. It holds nothing. There is only one sentence engraved on the body of the cup. Some pain does not have to be anyone's medicine. After these words appeared, many players in the church fell silent. Because it interrupts the most tender and greedy assumptions of the Holy Grail line. Not all pain needs to be transformed into healing resources. Some pains just need to be respectfully used. The NPC whispered. If everyone keeps it, who will heal the common trauma? Lin Yao replied, shared trauma can be discussed about mechanisms, responsibilities, and support. It does not necessarily have to be based on everyone's original text. Arthur continued, instead of sharing how everyone gets hurt, we can share how to stop hurting others. These words made the Holy Grail vibrate again. A system prompt appears. Healer route modified. New branch, Boundary Healer. Boundary Healer uses consented patterns, support methods, and structural lessons instead of collecting raw pain. Boundary Healer. Healing is not about pretending all the pain. It's about establishing boundaries, methods, and support. A healer player walks towards the empty cup. She had planned to submit a friend's story of trauma. Now, she deleted the original text and just wrote. When a friend tells me about pain, I should first ask, do you want me to listen, accompany, help, or keep it secret? This is not a trauma story. Is a support method. A new column appears next to the empty cup. Shareable support method. More and more players are rewriting submissions. Don't use other people's stories to educate others. Ask the other person if they want any advice before you accompany them. Public cases also require secondary use boundaries. Anonymization is not a panacea. Common container completion begins to decline. But the support method library is starting to rise. System prompts. Common vessel completion decreased to 31%. Boundary support library generated. The Holy Grail line is not broken. But move away from collecting pain to how collecting supports pain. This is a huge difference. However, the cracked silver cup on the altar suddenly lit up with crimson cracks. The NPC's voice became deeper. Without a common container, human beings will always be alone. Lin Yao said, loneliness cannot be solved by unauthorized collection. Then let the lonely man choose. A new mission appears above the Holy Grail. Voluntary offering event. Voluntary donation activity. Players can pour their deepest pain into the Holy Grail in exchange for a server-wide healing halo. Arthur's expression changed instantly. It was changed to a voluntary sacrifice. Lin Yao looked at the shaken faces of the players in the queue. This is more difficult to block than unauthorized collection. What if someone is really willing to sacrifice his pain in exchange for a full-service healing halo? Voluntarily. Dedication. Heal everyone. This is the oldest and most dangerous temptation of the Holy Grail. Use the blood of one person to exchange the comfort of many. Underscore 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 underscore